Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back once again to the Big Lick Roofing Studios up here on the mountain in Callaway, Virginia. We are the Appalachian Podcast, brought to you by Rife Technologies. I'm your host, Billy Riddle. With me is my cheeky co-host, who's already making preparations up here on the mountain for his buddies to return and start enforcing UK content laws, Simon Winch.
Bless you, Billy, for that. I've probably got in trouble. I'm already on the UK list now for posting probably fairly egregious comments with regards to the Metropolitan Police Commissioner. But there we go. Come get me.
And also, as always, Chip Slate, being Libertarian, our big friend. Chip, good to see you. Thank you for coming down and making it on a Sunday. This isn't a normal show, but you made the effort, so I certainly appreciate it.
It's good to be here. And Simon, I've seen you on the Being Libertarian UK page chiming in on a lot of these posts, and so we appreciate that. But, you know, those will probably get you jailed just like any other post will. So,
like I say, come and get me. I dare you.
Well, we are on a skeleton crew this week because for a few reasons. This was our normally record on Tuesday evenings, and a lot of things going on. We had to come up here on a Sunday evening. So Stuart wasn't able to make it. It's his wife's birthday today. So happy birthday to Tara if she's listening. Hope you're enjoying that. Of course, we tried to get Drew up here, RT guy. He had to get back down to Carolina, hoping to get him on soon enough. Everybody needs to listen. Listen to him. He's got a lot of cool stuff to say, and he's really going to help this show pop once we go to the video side of things. And obviously you don't hear that loud, deep voice. It seems to command a room.
Yep.
Our buddy Amos Denton, who is one of the main reasons as to why we are the number one podcast in the German Baptist community. He's broke back this week. Pun intended.
Could you rephrase that, perhaps?
I'm in it like that.
That's ruthless.
Man.
That's a second man when he's not here. That's the kind of dirty trick that I do, Billy.
I'm not exactly sure what happened. I haven't got all the details, but apparently he's hurt his back to the point where he can't really get up and move. And it's very understandable. The man has done nothing but bust his ass since he was probably 8 years old. I'm surprised it doesn't happen more often. So, but unfortunately, we don't get him up here on these days because.
Yeah, he's good and broken, I'm afraid, but on the mend, hopefully, which is all good.
Which, he has been working very hard on our new centerpiece for the studio up here, which is going to be phenomenal. I mean, we showed some pictures on X and on Facebook for anybody. If you haven't had a chance to go look, go give it a cedar table. All made from one log that came off a mountain here in Callaway, all put together. Amos went down, he cut the boards out of it himself. He planed it himself, he sanded it himself. Everything is 100% local, 100% Appalachian, 100% community. So when it gets here,
there's actually a very, very special feature about that table.
Should we say?
And I don't think I'm going to leave that to, I think, Amos to tell us about something that makes this table particularly special and rather appropriate for the cabin and the podcast. But I'll let him break that news. But it's a masterpiece of carpentry. Masterpiece.
Yeah, it looks beautiful, and it's going to represent everything that we've fought for up until this point in time. It'll represent how far we've come, which is tremendously far considering the world we're in, the podcasting world, because there are hundreds and hundreds of thousands of podcasts for everything you could possibly think of. So to find a niche and be able to find something unique and different and then build something unique and different up here, something that you want to come up here because it's great conversation, but it's also aesthetically pleasing. It's a beautiful cabin up here in the mountains. We're not some, corner studio in a city with sirens and stuff. You come up here, you breathe. It's an experience. Mm-hmm. When you come up here and come on the show, when we start moving forward and getting the video going, it's, hey, come up on a Thursday afternoon, and maybe we do a live show somewhere downtown Rocky Mount at a place you may be performing at. And then Friday you hang out, float the river, go hunting, go fishing, maybe hiking, go see another show, whatever you want to do. Saturday you come up here, we have a big cookout, we invite some VIPs and we have you on the show. And, and then Sunday you can stay another day or two if you want to, but we're getting people in here and excited about the area, excited about Appalachia. And so the table's going to be the centerpiece. I'm super excited about it. It's all coming together.
Yeah, it's a good vibe. Definitely a good vibe for sure.
Absolutely. And we got a lot to talk about on today's show. We're going to talk about a local doctor here in the Roanoke Valley, a pediatrician, no less, who's come under fire lately. I think the Board of Health, somebody has went on and found the documents of complaints that have been pertained to, and we'll have our suit right here kind of maybe go into more detail about what it means and the legitimacy of it and all this kind of stuff. And hopefully I'm going to try and post it on our page once the podcast is released. You can go listen to it for yourself or read it for yourself, but very disturbing. So we're going to talk about that, some of the things that makes us believe it's disturbing. Also a huge week in politics nationally, RFK, Trump, the Democrat National Convention was this week, so we're going to touch on all that and how it affects Appalachia and a plethora of other things. But before we get into that real quick, make sure you're going and checking out Big Lick Roofing, Dakota, one of our biggest supporters. What he's doing is unique. It's innovative, and to be as young as he is and making the moves he's doing, it's a perfect combination. I'm excited for him. I'm excited for the youth of America to be able to. We need somebody on our team up here that's quite a bit younger, that maybe doesn't have a wife and kids, that can drop by, not every show, but can drop by and give his 2 cents, meet some of the people we're bringing in here, because he needs to be a role model. And whether he, wants to accept that or not, maybe he doesn't come up here and get on a bunch of shows. Maybe he doesn't put himself out there, but based off of what he's done and the couple of times he's come up, it seems like something he enjoys. And he does. We need younger people in their, early to mid 20s, going into their 30s, to find somebody to say, hey, we can do this.
Yeah, I don't think you could ask for a better mentor. He's been so innovative in his approach to pretty much everything. And I think there's a lot to be learned from folks like that. And if he's, able to put that out there, we can only benefit as a community. So, listen to what he's got to say.
Absolutely.
Let's get some critical thinkers.
Bring
back
in some
game.
younger people listening to the show so they can learn from us and we can learn from them, because, that we need to stop ignoring the generational differences, looking at them as a negative, and start finding ways to learn from each other. So once again, that's Big Lick Roofing. Go give them a follow. Their biggest platform is Facebook, I believe, and they have great videos on there. Him on the drone coming up on the roof. He's going to tell you how it is. A remarkable young man. You're supporting local. You're supporting Appalachian people. And so make sure you're going and checking them out. Also, Rife Technologies. Go find him. I can't. What is his X account name? That's because if you look up Matt Rife, you're going to find a comedian.
It has to be Matthew.
I think it's Rife Technologies.
Right. Yeah, I think.
Here we go. It's at Rife Technology, and it says Matthew Rife, not Matt. But go check him out. He's got the holistic thing going with the frequencies and stuff. We did the show with him. He explained all of it to us, and he's been a tremendous help. He honestly, technically isn't a sponsor for the show. He didn't come, and we didn't work out any deals or anything. But he generously gave Simon $1,000, to help out with his, and donated a $5,500 machine, and is planning on donating.
I'm using it three times a day.
I'm telling you, you look a lot better. You sound a lot better. Your skin looks a lot better this week.
It's picking up. I finished that last bloody chemo session, so it can only improve from here.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm up to Sloan Kettering, I think next week after next, and then we'll see which path I'm going down. But I think his machine has been. We're about to see some results that will really, I think, demonstrate his approach and this sound frequency technology.
Yeah, and he's got some big things coming up apparently here in the near future. I think Alex Jones or something is picking up. I didn't get a chance to really go into it. And he's a busy guy, but he makes a lot of plans to try and come up here, and it doesn't always work because he is a couple hours away and he's a busy person. But he's excited about. I like when he comes up here. He adds, another bit of flavor to the show, another different perspective, and I hope he can come up as often as he can and jump in and be like a contributor.
Oh yeah, very much so. He's so articulate, and well read.
Absolutely, and that's what we need. We like those different kind of people bouncing off each other. So go check them out once again at Rife Technology, and be on the lookout for some of the things we've got coming up here in the near future. Also, a lot of other people who help contribute. Rocky Mountain Burger Company went down there this weekend, last week for my birthday on Tuesday. While we didn't record last week, I turned 35, and
You lying shit.
Hold your applause.
Yeah. We need an AED machine here. Our legal counsel is suffering a heart attack.
Look, you're as young as you feel, and I feel 72. So
there you go. Well, we'll hit you in the middle.
So we'll half-life that up.
You won't get.
But yeah, we went down and so for my birthday on Tuesday evening, we went up and I had to do a fantasy football draft. With a bunch of my buddies from high school. I'm about 3 or 4 different leagues, and the purpose is to just be able to keep in touch with a lot of different people for different reasons. I've got one with guys I was in a fraternity with in college. The older guys, and I'm in a league with the younger guys I pledged with. They're all over the country. Keep in touch with them. I'm in touch with some guys that were all from either Franklin County and either went to Tech or Radford, lived up in an NRV when I got home from overseas. And then this fourth one is, guys I went to high school with and graduated with. So it's, for more me, I don't really keep up as much as I used to, but it's a good opportunity to hang out with friends, have a little reunion once a year. And I'm hoping maybe here in the next season we can get like a Appalachian Podcast fantasy football draft going with some of our contributors and some of our subscribers. And the best way you can get an opportunity to be in that league is to become a subscriber at patreon.com/getontap for only $3 a month. Minimum. You can always give more.
Dime a day.
Dime a day. Come on, people. It just takes 2 minutes to sign up. It really helps out. It's really pushing us in a great direction. We have a great opportunity moving forward. I think Appalachia needs a voice. I think we've been forgotten about for far too long. We've been ignored. We've been stepped on. And, that's kind of why I stepped up and did this. And we are growing tremendously, with Chip's help and his reach with being Libertarian, when Spike helps and shares our stuff. Matthew Rife has a, 50 or 60,000 following him. We're all building a coalition here. We're getting Appalachian voices out there. And we're going to have people start looking our way. And maybe if you stick around, we're going to try and get in a quick 20-minute after show when this is up, because we're going to do a quick show today. But I want to do a little something for subscribers. So maybe we'll talk about a couple of people we're going to be trying to get on the show in the next few months. But your subscription helps, at patreon.com/getontap. You get shows early, you get after shows, and you will get opportunities to come up here and hang out for our big events, our big shows. We have these people up here, and Chip can tell you firsthand, before he ever met us, invited him up here for the Spike show the very first time, and it was an absolute blast.
It was good times, and it's only grown ever since then.
Yeah, that 1 year, and we've come along so far. And everybody that chips in and helps, you can always give more than $3 a month. 5, 10 would be great, but just get in there and get on the list. Start hanging out and associating. I want to get the chats and the comment section on these shows up in there so we can have real conversations. I know Nick, he comments quite a bit, and there's a couple other people that do. I want more people in there so we can have more of a private conversation. So once again, that's patreon.com/getontap. And again, back to what I was saying about the burger company. We did it up there, and Brian opens it up anytime I call him and say, hey, can we go up there? And bless her heart, I can't remember the girl's name who was our waitress, but Hannah, maybe. But she was phenomenal. She was great. When we go up there, they always send the private bartenders. We have somebody up there handling all of our food, all of our drinks. Y'all been up there before. And so they're a big help for the show. And you can do events in there. And I'm hoping in the future, we'll start doing maybe a monthly show or maybe even weekly or something, in the barrel room upstairs and other businesses downtown Rocky Mount to start bringing more people on board. So, and also Rocky Mount Smokehouse. They've been a huge help.
They should be back online this week.
I'm hoping so. They're back going. It's been a minute since I had a chance to go by there, but never disappointed. The service is always great. The food's always good. I'm hoping to get Buddy back up here on the show at some point in time. He'll definitely be up here when we do our first video show as the party. Not everybody might not get on the show, but I want them to be there to hang out. Kind of like our December event. And obviously being Libertarian's a massive sponsor for the show, because Chip gives us a lot of his time. And in my opinion, time is one of the most valuable resources we have. So go check them out I can't keep up with all of them, but if you look up Being Libertarian, you'll find them on all, but the different ones are.
You are the power.
Yeah. Oh, I was going to get to them. I was going to let him say his,
it's at Being Libertarian on X, Twitter, at Being a Libertarian on Instagram, and then Being Libertarian Media continues to grow there on Facebook. So look us up, and you're the power as well.
Yeah, you are the power. Huge help, Spike. He's been such a good person for this show. He's helped out tremendously, and you are the power. They're doing great things in Appalachia. They're doing great things in the area. They're going and holding governments accountable, and they're really being a thorn in people's sides.
Oh,
and we
force to
need
be
it. We need
reckoned with.
people out there
Yeah.
calling the corruption out on your local level. It's easy to sit back here and scream and shout about what's going on nationally. And we like doing that, and we do it, but for focusing local is how you really make change. Because if everybody locally and then everybody in a state is all on the same page, what's DC really going to do? What are they going to do? What can they do?
Exactly.
Yep.
So, speaking of corruption and all that stuff, let's get to our first discussion here this week. The one thing I do want to talk about, and we sent these messages out to you all a couple of days ago. I found out about Saturday morning, and Amos gave me a phone call discussing it. But a local pediatrician here in the Roanoke Valley has been accused by multiple parents. This is 6 parents, 6 different sets, I believe, was in the complaint, and some disturbing comments and things of that nature. So I know I've been over the cliff notes and spoke about it, but Chip, you actually did read it, and you know kind of how this thing works. It was written out much like a court document. So what did you see in it that that you could maybe pass over in layman's terms to help us all out?
Well, it looks like the board that oversees this doctor's license has suspended his license to practice. That's what I got from the order. Now, if you go look this up, and we're going to be talking about it, and like Billy said, it's Cliff Notes, so absolutely use your judgment in reading this yourself in terms of looking this stuff up. But there are several specific instances that are referenced there with families. He's a pediatrician, obviously, and instances that they had with him that are quoted here. And it looks like they're going to have a hearing where he'll basically have to try and get his suspension rescinded. It sounds like the burden's on him to do that, from what I can tell.
That blows my mind that if you've been caught with your hand in the cookie jar, that then you're actually prepared to appeal your stance against being suspended. There's a level of arrogance there that I find as equally as disturbing as the charge itself against this individual.
Mm-hmm.
He's despicable. If these statements are true.
It sounds like it from just reading that document. But again, I would encourage everybody to read it themselves, make their own opinion. But if those things are true, they're pretty disturbing.
Yeah. Now we I heard about it, and then Amos gives me a call, and the guy's name is Dalton Rennick. He's a doctor, he's a pediatrician of all things, and he worked in the Carilion system here, and kudos to Carilion for dismissing him. I'm pretty sure they got rid of him pretty quick. In today's world, it's really hard to.
It took a whistleblower, right?
No, it just took parents complaining.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, parents. I'm pretty sure parents just, and this is why it's so disturbing, is because multiple parents who probably didn't know each other all came together and made comments on separate occasions. And I'm pretty sure coworkers had spoken up as well. So it was just a culmination of things. And then Carilion did what they were supposed to do. And oddly enough, in the political and social climate we find ourselves in, that's not always the case anymore. I mean, we've got places where, people who were, and not just in this country, but in the world in general, in places that we consider first world countries, people who are being locked up, arrested, thrown in cages for speech, for things they just, and in the meantime, we have people that are raping children being released after a few months, or being released without bond before their trial, things that are just mind-boggling. So kudos to Carilion. We've always got plenty of criticism for places as big as Carilion is. It's just the nature of the beast, but respect to them for handling this how they should have and getting rid of him.
Yeah, but now where is he?
Well, he had moved on to a practice in Blacksburg, and this was all dropped, or Blacksburg or Christiansburg, and this was all dropped this weekend. So I'm not sure if they've commented not, but I want to say I heard that he had already been released from there or fired, if not. But it just makes you like, how does this persist? How does somebody get comfortable enough to say things like, and I'll give you example. One of them was apparently he had dropped the F-bomb multiple times in front of multiple parents, which is, I'll drop that all the time in conversation or a show, but in a professional atmosphere, especially medical, when it's coming to your child,
that has no place.
That would be a red flag.
Oh, 100%.
Right there.
Hell.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to figure out the mind of somebody where you just think this is acceptable. But, he had made a couple of comments that alluded to the smell of a newborn baby and how that makes them very, cover your ears, children, fuckable. Now, I don't really care if you're got a sick, twisted sense of humor. That's wild for a comedian to say, because it wouldn't get a laugh. It just doesn't make any sense. There's nothing really funny about that unless, there's somebody who's well crafted. It can really, but if you're a pediatrician, what gives you where are we at as a society that makes you comfortable enough to be able to say that around parents that you don't know? And what else is going on if this is what you're talking about in this kind of environment?
Yeah,
I am beyond disturbed. If I was one of the parents, let me tell you, my actions would have been very swift. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, we really can't say on this show what we're probably going through your mind as a father and probably how you would act and how justified it would be without anybody accusing us of wanting to get violent, because that's certainly not the case. I have no desire to ever get violent. My goal in life is to make things as peaceful as possible. But something like that, it really puts your faith and
it pushes that limit, right?
It really does. I'm going to read one right here. So individual one and her spouse, the parents of patient A, brought patient A newborn, to see Dr. Rennick at the clinic on 3 separate occasions. I don't know how you let it get to 3, but I digress. Individual one reported that during the first 2 visits, Dr. Eunice used the word F-U-C-K 10 to 15 times each.
Wow.
It also referred both individual ones. What's that?
Has she got Tourette's?
That's the same thing somebody else had said. They thought
question.
that. I don't know. Not with the other comments. I wouldn't. Because that would be an easy explanation.
Yeah, but no, that's not excusing any mental
It could be a fact.
inclination that he has.
Mhm.
But when you're swearing that repetitively, there's an issue there,
In
right?
an improper setting,
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
especially.
that's the key word, improper setting,
Yeah.
because if you're
So-
swearing that much in one setting,
Mhm.
you could just be a sailor
Well,
Yeah.
oh,
or a
sorry
rugby
about that.
player.
Yeah,
Right.
thank
or a
you very
British
much,
rugby
Billy.
player sailor. But,
Yeah, you got me there.
but
But
so
mine's a filter issue.
yeah, the filter
You
between your
acknow- you
brain and your
acknowledge
mouth.
it.
doesn't
Oh,
exist.
absolutely.
So said the F word 10 to 15 times. I also referred to both individual one and patient A as stupid, and kissed patient A on the top of his head.
Oh, dear
On January
Lord.
16th, 2024, during patient A 4-month wellness check, Dr. Rennick and individual one discussed how newborn babies smell. Then, while holding patient A and smelling the top of his head, Dr. Rennick stated something to the effect of, "I recall smelling my daughter, and it makes me want to F them." Dr. Rennick then asked individual one not to tell anyone that he made that statement because he would get in trouble. I'll read one more real
You
quick.
think?
Individual 2 and her spouse, the parents of patient B, brought patient B to Dr. Rennick at the clinic on 2 occasions. Individual 2 reported that Dr. Rennick used the F word a lot during each visit, including that Dr. Rennick said, the F word about 20 times within the first meeting. Individual 2 and her spouse on the 12th of January, during patient B's 2-week-old visit, individual 2 mentioned she was experiencing feeding issues and indicated that she was using a syringe feeding her child. In response, Dr. Rennick stated that syringe feeding was not good for patient B, and then compared it to a, quote, cum shot not easy to take down, unquote.
Oh, dear Lord.
Personal records indicate Dr. Rennick stated syringe feeding is like a dick. You get it all in your mouth, but you can just swallow it all down. I'm not going to read any more, but there's about 6 other complaints in there. It's about 6 pages of it. We will share it on our podcast page on all platforms when this show is released.
I think we're morally obligated to share it.
And we just
As offensive as it is, we need to get that out there.
and you need to see it yourself. Don't take our word for it. Go read it yourself, because this was put out by the by the folks that oversee this industry. So check it out.
So this is a legal document, correct?
Well, it's not necessarily a legal
Not a legal document, but it's
It's in the public forum.
It is a formal document.
Right.
That
It was released by this, like certain industries are have their own overseeing bodies, like lawyers and doctors, and this is the doctors' overseeing body, thankfully doing what they should be doing, and,
Quite right,
and
too.
policing, their own, which is what you hope they would do, and why they have that freedom to do that. So, but it's a legitimate document from them. Yeah, you can say that.
Yeah, so go check it out. I don't. We will release it when we release the show, and we're going to release this show on a special day. We're up here. I'm going to put it out above our show last week, so you will be a little confused when you hear next week's show. We'll be talking about things that happened a couple weeks before you're listening, but it's all very informative, and we have our big announcement with the everything, and we talk about that quite a bit. But we will release this one early and talk about it, because I don't think it's been discussed by local television stations or news outlets yet. So we are, as far as I know, the first people to break it, other than the person who were releasing it.
And it's certainly making the rounds now on the Facebook feed. It's out there, so it is getting circulated. But
Well, it leads to a bigger question too, like what possesses somebody to think? And me and my wife had this discussion, because she's in the medical industry, and she asked, how does somebody like that even make it through residency, first and foremost? And that's quite perplexing, because you would have thought they would have exterminated that or let it go very quickly, but perhaps for whatever reason he was more professional in that setting and minded his P's and Q's. But if you're that smart for that, then you're certainly smart enough to know you're very young and you don't really have a big client. It's not like this kid's 32. I say kid. He's 32. He's not established. He hasn't been around for 40 years. And he has this reputation of, he's, Dr. Blah. He's got a dark sense of humor. But, did something break? I mean, maybe COVID broke him, somebody like, and I'm not making excuses. I'm just trying to fathom. I'm trying to put into to some kind of context or perspective to understand, like, why you would not only
that's
think
it's a mental illness,
not even think like this, but you would bring it up to patients and their children.
Yeah.
Like, what?
There's a level of arrogance, that to me is unfathomable. I mean, it's where that comes from just blows my mind. But the very fact that he's on record displaying that mental, it's so disturbing that this isn't going to get medicated out. The poor chap needs to be put in a padded cell, in a straitjacket.
Well, it's just how did he get through that? All that training, because it's sort of each level
makes you wonder.
It's just like being a lawyer. You each level is designed to sort of weed out people, getting into, being able to get into law school, then being able to pass the bar. Each time certain people are getting, cut out. And so it's designed to keep those folks sort of understood and kick them out at the right time or identify them. But that didn't happen here. And
yeah, he made it through the cracks in the pavement for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, which it perplexes me. So how are you that smart then, but that dumb now? I mean, did COVID break him? Did something break him where he just didn't give a crap anymore? Or is this just the society we live in now, where there's a lot of sick people around us that we're not aware? I mean, a lot more than we were ever led to believe. I mean, is the world that bad? I tend to not believe that, but
it's beginning to look that way, I'm afraid, Billy.
It's a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
You got a high stress job. You've got, that can wear on you with, dealing with that stuff every day. And then, obviously this stuff had to be somewhere in there to begin with, and it just came out, I guess.
Yeah. The fact that he was able to be, let's say, dismissed from Carillion without consequence, that kind of baffles me too. Great for dismissing the guy, but it's so disturbing that if all you're prepared to do is pass the buck, that makes you complicit in the original crime, because that's all they appear to have done. Is if it's just firing the dude,
well, I don't think legally
where he can then go and try and attempt to practice in Christiansburg or wherever it is.
And Chip can help correct if I'm wrong here, but I'm not going to lay the blame on Carillion, because I don't think he did anything. He didn't act on anything. So as disturbing as it is, I don't know if any laws were broken. But I also don't think that Carillion can give any kind of details to his next employer when they do a call.
No, they
can only say whether he left in good standing or bad standing.
You can't stab someone in the back. And I mean, when it comes to this degree of depravity, I'm sorry, you've got to stand up. And if it means there's a lawsuit because you broke a certain law that ethically is highly questionable in this circumstance, then stand up and take it.
Well, this didn't happen too long ago, and if I'm not mistaken, I want to say it was a registered nurse who did originally leak these files out or publish these files for everybody to see. And I don't know where she works, but maybe they're I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Just maybe let's wishful think, and there were back channels used because this is somebody who obviously knew what they were looking for. But I'm not saying they were doing it under the guise of Carillion, but I am saying that there are people paying attention, and there are people that want the public to know these things because this is a pediatrician. Your children go see this guy.
Yeah, but corporately, Billy, for me, it doesn't stop because Carillion fired him. That's not. I mean, that's not where that ends, and culpability seems to disappear with it. Yeah, I've got an issue there with Carillion just firing him. I morally speaking, and you're going to break labour laws doing it, but at a certain point, when you see that level of depravity, I'll take the hit. Fine me. Carillion's a big bunch. They've got all their attorneys behind it. They could defend that and it could be dismissed, put to a lower charge, whatever. Take the fine because the fine is morally. I'll take the fine, thanks. If you're going to enforce it, I'll take it. And if I'm paying the fine, what does that make you?
Well, do doctors have unions?
No.
Okay.
No, I think they've got their medical bodies.
Right.
And whether you could structure that to say it's a union,
I wouldn't.
I wouldn't.
Way I'm thinking, yeah.
But to say that they have their governing bodies, which can act as a union in certain respects,
right? But not in the way I'm thinking for this.
Right.
I mean,
right.
Well, either way, I understand where you're coming from, and honestly, morally speaking, I'm in the same lane as you are, but I'm still going to give credit to him for firing him. And this came out fairly quickly. I mean, this all just happened this year. So somebody's on the ball, and let's just be thankful it did come out. And people just pay attention. Pay attention to who is taking care of you, your children. Pay attention to everything, especially when it involves your children. And don't hesitate to speak up, because if the last 4 years have taught us anything, it's that people who your entire life you've spent thinking that were uncorruptible, morally apt people, it's not always the case. There are a lot of disgusting and sick and evil people that dress up in lab coats, that are doctors, that are nurses, that have no empathy, that are sociopaths. And that's not all of them, and I think it's still a small percentage. But you have to keep your head on a swivel, especially in today's political climate. So,
oh, absolutely.
Well, let's go ahead and segue into our next topic real quick. And I don't want to spend a lot of time on this because I'm just kind of want to because I know Simon's kind of paid attention on this a little bit, and I want to give my opinion on it. I don't think we talked about it last week, so if we did, stop me. But
no, we didn't.
The new monument in Rocky Mount that's going up. Did we talk about that? Or the Civil War Black Soldiers Monument? I don't think we discussed that on next week's show, did we?
No, I don't think we did. Not to any great depth.
So I'm going to give the short description here, and I want you to chime in and get to the specifics a little bit better. But apparently, they're the NAACP or a black organization, something to that nature, has wanted to come in and build a statue, a monument that honors the lives of the black soldiers who died for the Union during the Civil War. And the town of Rocky Mount has apparently approved it and set everything up. And on the path to get it. And there's been a lot of controversy in the past couple weeks. For whatever reason, it just seems like you can't make anybody happy no matter what. I think they maybe wanted to put it up at the farmer's market, which really doesn't make a lot of sense, but that's what the organization wanted to put it, but the town and everybody else was like, we're down at the Veterans Park along with where the veterans should be honored. So what am I missing on this, Simon?
You're not missing a great deal. The bickering has been intense, and I have got involved in some of it. I think where we currently stand is that the town of Rocky Mount have approved the placing of a monument at the memorial park, and for some reason that wasn't acceptable. Even though that was part of the original proposal, the goalposts got moved, by whom I do not know. So those goalposts getting moved just ended up with some bitterness and some bickering. And quite frankly, I'm a little bit tired of it. I think the monument's a great thing. I'm not quite on board with it being so inclusive of Black Union troops are the only ones recognized.
Well, I don't think Union troops recognized on the other memorial down there. I'm not sure if they are or not there, because I'm sure we had white Union troops that died, and however you want to look at that.
Yeah, it's how you commemorate. And that's really the crux of the issue. How do you commemorate your fallen? And whether it's by flag or monument, I agree with Billy on the issue of it being put in to the farmers market. Again, that just increases the narrative of inclusive. And it when you consider it a little bit more deeply, to me, it starts to sound where you're just continuing the division, and that's what I've got a problem with, because it's a constant division.
Well,
and it really shouldn't be.
I had seen some comments on there of people like accusing our mayor of being racist to some degree, and let me be the first to step up and say that is the most outrageous, ridiculous. I've known Holland for a long, long time. And if you've listened to this show for any amount of time, you will know that I disagree with a lot of his policies first and foremost. And I would do things much differently if it were me. But that being said, he is transparent. He comes on the show. He speaks with us. He says his side of the story. I say mine, and you people go out there and vote on it. So, I'm doing what I want to do, but we still have to get along. We still have to live in the same town. We both have the same goals. We just have different ideas about how we should get to those goals. But as somebody who's known him individually on a personal level since we were, teenagers, I can tell you first and foremost, that is probably the least racist individual you will possibly meet. So that is absurd. Anybody making those comments is absolutely ridiculous. Number two, and like I kind of told you, I said, it just goes to show you that no matter what you do, no matter how much you bend your back over, you are never going to please people. Because put it like this. Let's say you are, what would you see Hollinson was talking about him? You get elected into a town. There's only a couple of thousand votes out of the 5,000 that live there. So already off the bat, half the people don't even care enough to vote. And then the other half, it's always close to 50-50 either way for the most part. So right off the bat, 50% of the people who voted are going to disagree with you no matter what. And then when you get into the people that did vote for you, now all of a sudden, if you don't do things the way that they think you should do them, or the way that then all of a sudden they're against you, and it's just, this is why I don't get into politics.
It's a dog-eat-dog, isn't it?
This is why, and it lends itself to a greater conversation later that we'll get into on another show about politics and why it's so disturbing. So I have a little bit more respect for him just for having to put up with it, because I know he really does go out of his way. Disagree with his policies, but he goes out of his way to be a people's politician. I don't agree with everything that John F. Kennedy did, but he was out here going door to door in Appalachia. You know what I mean? Like people like that are making an effort. Holland makes himself available. So, whatever you want to say about it,
Well,
number one, racist isn't the way to go. That's stupid and makes you look ignorant.
well, and I thought, it's really hard to defend yourself when somebody just throws that word at you. But I thought he handled it so well on Facebook, the way he responded to it. And he just laid it out factually that, that's just ridiculous.
Gave a timeline,
Yep,
showed everything.
But it's really hard to do that. And that was impressive because that's not easy to do.
No. And especially in today's world, in today's political climate. And so, respect to Holland for being transparent and doing what he does. But hopefully there's a lesson to be learned here for him and everybody else. Sometimes you just got to step up and say, you know what? And that's what he did. Well, that's what he did. He stepped up and said, this is it. These are the facts. Here's the receipts.
He stated his position. He gave the facts. He supported his stance. And, I applaud him for that. And when it comes to these baseless accusations, and they really are, then they are spiteful and malicious.
And it's very controversial too, because
just don't do it.
Well, the whole thing is, and that's why it's even more ridiculous if you're on his side and you want this statue to come to fruition, it's more ridiculous to attack him because, it's very controversial and we won't get into the whole nuts and bolts of it, but, you're putting a monument of Union soldiers down in the South. And I know everybody's going to make their arguments. Oh, well, the South were rebels and traitors, blah, blah, blah. So were the militiamen. You know what I mean? One person's terrorist or traitor is another person's freedom fighter. So there's a lot of different perspectives here. There's a lot of different perspectives about the Civil War. We're not going to get into about who was the best and who was the worst, blah, blah, blah. Another show, another talk. But at the end of the day, it's still controversial to some degree, and they still brought it in front of a town, and it passed, and you're going to get your statue, and you're just making things worse, and you're turning off more and more people to whatever cause it is that you think is important. But let me as a veteran speak up and give my opinion on the matter. I don't particularly care about the monuments. I don't particularly care about statues. We're not supposed to make monuments to men anyway. Make your statues and your monuments to God, Jesus, whatever you want to do. Man is infallible. Maybe you can, statues of moments or something like that. And I've said this about Jubal early time and time again. I don't really care either way. I don't, put it up wherever you want to put it up at, but don't take it down and destroy it and do it as somebody else's art. But perhaps just maybe we start focusing our attention and our efforts on preventing more and more veterans and dead veterans becoming a thing where these monuments are a necessity, and start holding these people in DC accountable and stop pushing for wars. Because I would much rather not go to war than have a monument set up to memorialize my brothers who died over there for some stupid bankers in Wall Street or DC. So that's what my problem with it is. If you want to do it, fine. It's so far in the past. I mean, it's you know what I mean? I mean, this is a couple hundred years ago, whatever the case may be, but I would much prefer, and I said this during the BLM thing, which was a big reason I started this show. I've said it time and time again. Why the New York Post, Washington Times came in here, Washington Post, New York, whatever, came in here and made us look like a bunch of slack-jawed, redneck, racist assholes, and that is not the case. And I said my thing about Jubilee, and then back then I said, why during the biggest lockdown, the biggest trample of our freedoms, our individual and basic freedoms in this country, people are being locked away. They're being forced to get an experimental medical treatment to keep their jobs. Schools are closing, all these things, their life is getting turned upside down. And we're out here putting our energy towards protesting a statue of a guy that's 200 years old. And, and Brian and Darnell, they gave their answer. They said, hey, the opportunity presented itself. And that was the time that we had the momentum. Fine. That I can understand that. But at the end of the day, why are we putting so much focus and energy and effort and time into something that happened 200 years ago and we're still fighting about it? And we have people stepping on our necks today. That should be something we're focused on and dealing with. 10,000 freaking
we should be dealing with the
bullet
current
points down the list. Yep. You know what I mean?
Well, we're not dealing with the current, and that really is where we need to be. So yeah, I mean, I get it. You learn from the past, so always be able to reflect back. But if you're not learning from the past, you're making a mistake. So that's one thing. So please don't try and cancel it. And I'll leave that subject matter for somewhere else. But we need to be dealing with the current. I don't need to be predicting the future. I don't need to be anticipating the future. At the moment, we're dealing with the current, and the current is actually a pretty fucking bad place right now. And, you know, we got some pretty big problems coming. And the next 3 months it's going to be testing and challenging. But just maintain the peace.
Well, that's a good segue. But real quick, I will say, I think on this monument issue, the lesson to be learned here is at the end of the day, the government should just not be involved in this whatsoever, no matter what side it is, no matter what and it's coming from a veteran. Look, there's tons of organizations out here. Let's go hold Wounded Warrior projects to the fire and say, why don't you start using like more than 10% of the donations you get to actually help veterans instead of taking the 90 and using them on admin fees and buy, you know what I mean? Get money from Black Lives Matter, all those millions and billions that were donated that Brian and Darnell say they never see around here. Well, they get that money. Go find yourself a private piece of property and put it up right there. And that way you can do anything you want with it. You can put up a business, whatever the case may be. And the same goes for Veterans Park. That's how we should have did it in the first place. Find a private spot. Government should have never been involved with it in the first place. If you care that deeply about, something that happened 200 years ago, get the donations, get the rallies up, buy yourself a private piece of land, put the sculpture right there, and boom, you have full control over it. The government has no business siding with any of them. And that goes for the regular, and as much as I appreciate it, as much as it's nice to go down there to the Veterans Park, can't do anything about it now. It's hindsight, but the government should just not be involved. And yeah, kudos to Holland for handling it like a professional and handling it like he should have.
Yeah, I'm not going to disagree with that at all. I think he handled it very professionally, and to have some of the slanderous comments made against him it's just, come on, put things in perspective, for goodness sake.
Yeah, do better. I mean,
raise the bloody bar and stop being just so fucking retarded about shit.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I've probably upset someone there too. Hey, I don't care.
Deal with it.
Deal with it.
I will say that, in my 42 years on this, 35 years on this earth.
Oh, there we go, 42. There, you heard it here first, folks.
I will say that Holland is probably the most black-friendly mayor we have had in this town. So, keep chipping away at him and keep calling him racist and keep, belittling him and begrudging him for this stuff. If you're on that side of things, to the one person who has been the most, to reach, to reach out. So if that's, this is why things never get accomplished.
Yeah. Just don't go to that level.
Well,
raise the bar.
Expose themselves when they do that.
Well, they do, because it's lazy. Mm-hmm. Because when you start throwing ad hominem attacks at people and call them racist, you're bigots, you're Nazis, you don't really have an argument, and you're just showing how stupid you are. But unfortunately, there is at least a significant percentage of the population, whether it be 20, 30, or 40, that fall right in line with you. So you all to yourselves look intelligent, but you're all stupid. And stop. We're trying to do something right in this town, and if somebody who is as anti-government as me can reach across the aisle and extend olive branches and vice versa to somebody like Holland and Joe Stanley, who, we have nothing in common with politically. If we can reach across the aisle and argue and bury hatchets and all this kind of stuff, then y'all sure as hell can as well. So stop. We're trying to build Rocky Mountain, Franklin County, and Appalachia into a force to be reckoned with, and we can't do it when we're bickering and complaining about the most minuscule and not to belittle if you think this statue's a big deal, minuscule, but in the grand scheme of things, if you're worried about your community and your people, that's just not something that's in the forefront of most people's minds. So
choose the hill that you wish to die on wisely. It's, that's pretty much it. And come on now, think about it.
Before we jump into our next segment, I wanted to say real quick, patreon.com/getontap. If you like this kind of conversation and you want it to get a little bit more spicy in our after shows, that's the place to do it, where we cuss a little bit more, don't let the kids sit around and listen, and you're supporting us, and you're supporting our ability to have people like Brian and Darnell on the show, to have people to come and give their different opinions, and we can have these conversations, because us three up here talking about it,
we need interaction.
It's always nice to have somebody who's more more
Engage
invested.
us.
Exactly. And we do that. And I like to treat our guests nicely. I like to cook them a steak dinner most times, or get them some food, or maybe a liquor drink or two. And those subscriptions help. So once again, patreon.com/get on tap. Before we jump into the national news, it's going to be affecting Appalachia. Is there anything else locally that I've missed that's come up here in the past couple of weeks that we should mention?
I think the continued support for the Friends of Ferrum is going to be a big deal. You know, financially, it's going to require not just the Ferrum community, but Franklin County community. I mean, support this project. What else springs to mind?
I know school started back this week.
Yeah,
we'll talk maybe in a couple of weeks about.
Watch yourself with the school buses. You know, let's not put ourselves in a point of conflict with how we should be dealing with school buses. We all know what to do, right? The red lights are coming on. Back off. Don't try and do something stupid. Just respect the school buses. They've got a tough enough job as it is.
Well, one other bit of local news, since we're coming out with this show quickly. The Wood Brothers just won their 100th race at Daytona.
Oh, right on.
So that, they've been working on that for years. And as a native Patrick County, it's great to see that. And I'm really excited that they've finally done that.
I was going to make a post about that on X here later on this evening to say the Appalachian-based Wood Brothers, who is a single operation team, and for the majority of their history have been, they had a couple of cars back in the 80s and early 90s, but they've been a single operation team that has operated out of Stewart, Virginia, and Patrick County. And last night they won in phenomenal fashion their 100th race at Daytona under the lights. And it was actually a local Virginia boy as well who won the race, Harrison Burton. He's the son of Jeff Burton. Of course, Jeff and Ward are both from South Boston, Virginia, which in my mind is Appalachian adjacent. I would give any county that borders, that might not be in the Appalachian Mountains, but it borders a county that has that culture does extend outward. Like, people in South Boston really are just like people up here.
It should be confectious, right? It really should.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it is. I mean, unavoidably so. Love it.
Speaks
of Redcoat.
And well, if you listen back, in the first half of this show's existence, we did a lot of racing shows, and then me and Simon teamed up and we started expanding quite a bit more. And the racing is a lot of fun, and I want to get back to doing more of the racing shows. I just have to get Simon out to a race for some context. That way, because we have a huge amount of respect for the Smart Modified Tour, and Chris Williams and all him and JB are doing for those guys, for the ground pounders, because we've had some phenomenal, historically legendary modified racers on this show over the years. We've had Bobby Labonte on the show, and I want to get back to doing some of the racing stuff, especially when we get the cameras going. And we will. We're going to get Chris back up in here. We're going to get JB, hopefully Bobby Labonte back on the show. Chris has got a lot of great connections, and we just need to get Simon out to a track so he has the context. And Chris can give him the ride along, can give him the pit experience, and really bring it together.
Well, now, when you say racing, does he understand it's not chariots?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, are you cheeky
there
bastard?
There are horses involved. There's horsepower involved.
Now, bloody hell, that was ruthless, Chip. Chariots, indeed. I mean, I've raced around Brands Hatch in a 325 BMW, so I mean,
oh, wow.
It's I've had some fun with speed, but speed when you get older, trust me, you understand the statistical disadvantage of speed. Yeah. That's one of the reasons I stopped jumping out of serviceable aircraft. Statistically, speed or jumping out of a serviceable aircraft is going to lead you into a position that could be fatal.
Sure.
So, yeah, if I do a ride around, bring me my brown pants.
Hey, look, I have a video. I have a video I'll share sometime this week of me getting a ride along with former NASCAR Winston Cup driver Hermie Sadler up at the New River Valley Speedway. I guess it was Motor Mile back that's now Pulaski, whatever it is. Got to do a late model ride around with him. And I'm going to tell you what, It doesn't look like you're going really fast when you're sitting in the grandstands and watching, but when you get in the car,
That
man,
low
son of a
down?
gun is going.
Oh yeah.
It is going.
I will have at least, if you put me on a ride around, the pens will be involved. I can tell you that much. I know being low down to the ground and traveling at those speeds, and with how the whole dynamics work, particularly going into corners.
You accelerate into the corners.
You're kind of breaking in and accelerating out, and it's great. But when it doesn't work, it's absolutely horrible.
Yeah. Well, seriously though, look forward in the near future because we will start bringing some of the racing shows back on once we get the cameras going and once we get Simon. And then me and Chip are working behind the scenes a little bit to help revitalize the Virginia Hall of Fame there in Stewart. I've talked to a couple other people, and here when the racing season is over with, we're all going to get together, have a meal. We're going to do it in Martinsville or something. And we're all going to sit down and we're going to make this work. We'll talk about that more off the air, but I encourage everybody to actually go back and listen.
I'm going to need a helmet camera for a ride around.
You can. I brought my camera for my one with Hermie. You can watch. I'll post it later. But Wood Brothers, Stewart, Virginia, Appalachian-based. And actually, there's only been a couple of true Appalachian-based racing teams that have made a massive impact, at least in my lifetime. One would be the Wood Brothers, and the other would be Morgan McClure, which was based out of Abingdon, Virginia. They always had that famous number 4 yellow Kodiak. Kodak, is it? No, Kodiak. Hold on, which one? Kodiak is the dip. Kodak is the camera. Right. Kodak film.
You slack jaw.
He had to talk himself through it.
Oh, yeah. I hope everyone realised what happened.
He had to talk himself through it.
That was.
Actually we follow each other. Larry Morgan, his daughter on X, we go back and forth. I want to get her and get her dad down here to talk about their times because they used to dominate Daytona. I mean, they were forced to be reckoned with. And in my lifetime, I've been to a bunch of NASCAR races that hold a lot of significant meanings, different ones, between my first there. One of the most special ones, 2 of them were at Bristol. One of them was I got to see Earnhardt win. I've talked about that on the show before, but another one was the year he died. I was at Emory and Henry where my buddies had tickets to Bristol, really cold. It was flurrying this day in March down at Bristol Motor Speedway. But we went down to the race. I was at Emory and Henry. My buddy Matt Smith, Smitty, shout out to him. I haven't talked to him in 20 some years. We went down there and watched the race. It was the only spring race at Bristol I've ever went to see. I've seen 4 or 5 of the night races, but it's the only spring race I saw. 2001 after Earnhardt died, and everybody's doing the 3 thing or whatever. And I remember Elliott Sadler, Hermie's brother, who gave me the ride around, was having he was in the Wood Brothers car that day. And I'll never forget it, like with 70 laps to go, 60, he come in and he only took 2 tires. I'm like, at Bristol, what the hell is he thinking? And somehow managed to hold off and win the race. So I did get to see the Wood Brothers win once in my lifetime, which was super special. And I wanted to mention to everybody, go back, our episode, December 28th, 2021. God, almost 3 years ago. This is episode number, Jesus, Mary, and Joseph. Why is this?
There's an interesting pause here.
Why is this more info? Here we go. Episode 35, we had John Wood, who is the heir to the Wood Brothers throne. He raced in the truck series for quite a while, and I think he does a lot of their and they're still a very family-oriented operation, like very family. Like the Woods still run the operation. They're still the secretaries. They're still doing this. Go back and listen to that show. John was a great conversation. He raced in the trucks back in the early 2000s. He's been in the sport a long, long time, has some good stories. And I'm hoping once we get the video cameras up, we'll get him back down here to talk more about how legendary the Wood Brothers are. So thanks for bringing that up because that's huge. And while we're on the racing subject as well, I've mentioned the Smart Modified Tour and how important they are to us, and how we'll be getting them on here in the near future. But D's Lug Nuts is a podcast, the D's Lug Nut podcast. It's one of my babies. It's one of my brainchilds that I branched off about a year and a half ago because we had so many phenomenal racing connections. I was like, Zoom is a very easy way to bring these connections on for half an hour once a week. And it got to be a little bit too much for me, but I wanted to keep it going. Julian Austin and Jody Freeman, I passed the show on to them. I'm still the producer. I'm still the owner, all this kind of stuff, but I passed it on to them and put it in their hands, and they've done a phenomenal job. Look, they're at the track almost every weekend. Sometimes they're together. Sometimes they separate. They're out there getting interviews for local short track racing in the Appalachian region and North Carolina, South Carolina, and those areas. They're covering NASCAR. They're covering the Cars Tour. They're covering the Smart Modified Tour. People that are local, that are at local tracks that are doing things that are bringing us entertainment. They just did their 100th episode. I'm super proud of it. I was on probably the first 24 or so. So if you go back and listen, we had a lot of cool guests in the first 24 shows. I mean, Matt Dillner, who's Dale Jr.'s right-hand man, Chris Williams, director of the Smart Tour. He was nice. Dale Sr.'s right-hand man. JB Cole, I think we had him on there. We had, big name guys, big name race, big future guys. And I hope to get back on that show at some point in time, at least to make an appearance, but they've done a phenomenal job. Go give them a follow at Deez, D-E-E-Z, Lug Nuts, N-U-T-Z. They're on all platforms, Instagram, Facebook. They just made their 100th show. Every weekend they've got a great guest, somebody from the racing world that has a lot of knowledge. So, and it's our brainchild. So, much like how Chip and I are trying to being Appalachian to take off here in the very near future, these lug nuts is something else. So if you're a racing fan and you like supporting local racing, these guys are giving their all. Go follow these lug nuts. And being Appalachian, we've been talking about it and teasing it for a while now. The reason we haven't moved forward with it officially is because I wanted the Appalachian podcast to get our cameras in. I wanted to get this show rocking and rolling on that aspect first. Yeah. That way, when the Being Appalachian takes place, then we have something to reference people to. And I'm telling you, Chip and I, we have some awesome people that we can reach out to and lined up to do that show with. And Spike's going to hopefully be a part of it every week, 30, 35 minutes. We're just going to talk about topical news events for the week. Spike will talk a little bit about what You the Power is doing. Chip will talk about what Being Libertarian's doing. I'll talk about what the Appalachian podcast is doing, 5 minutes. Then we'll spend 20 to 25 minutes going over 2 or 3 weekly topics with, some big guests, like the people that are in inboxes that we can get to zoom in. And we just need a few of them every year to come here and get on the Appalachian pod. So awesome things coming. So
no doubt. And I guess
strategery.
Will that be on Sunday evenings? Isn't that generally what we're looking at? So
what's that?
For the
Being Appalachian?
Yep.
I think that would be the best avenue.
So I know that's usually when Spike's available and we can,
he's available. He does his spaces on Sunday evening as well, which we're going to hopefully start. He hasn't done them. Having some issues lately, I think, because he's been in Florida. They had the hurricane going on, so I don't know if he's done the spaces, and we've been super busy as well, but I'm hoping here in the next couple of weeks, we'll start helping him host those spaces. I've been in touch with him. I'm trying to get him up here to be our featured guest for our first video show as well. So yeah, dude, the independent journalists we have with the followings, the actors, the movie stars, the musicians, Gina Carano, Pete Parada, Donald Trump Jr., a lot of these people are in and out of following us and sharing, mostly you sharing our stuff, liking it, and we have golden opportunities. So,
well, it's funny how, my wife has rarely been interested in what I do with this stuff. And then I tell her that Drea De Matteo, the lady from The Sopranos, Christopher's girlfriend on The Sopranos, follows us and started interacting on our posts.
There you
and
go.
So now all of a sudden she's how's your girlfriend? Like it's now how's your girlfriend? And she's like, oh, I followed her now. So she's checking up on her too. It's funny. It's
stalking. I believe that's stalking.
That's
isn't it?
That's exactly what it is.
Oh, it's wild. The people that are in my inbox, the people that are in Chips. And Matt, shout out to Matt who runs the Twitter page. We got to get him down here for a show. Actually, when we do the video show, we need to make sure he's down here for that celebration.
He can come over from Richmond.
He's been, got to meet him at the Libertarian Party convention here a few months ago. He's great, and he needs to be here. He's been a big help for us as well. But Yeah, the people that are on their inboxes, and I'm not saying this for for starstruck purposes. I just want to let y'all know that we got a lot of cool people. They're gonna put Appalachia in their radar here in the very near future. They're gonna come here. They're gonna spend money. You're gonna get a chance to talk to them, especially if you're a subscriber at Patreon.com/GetOnTap. But even if not, when we have live events and stuff in town and things like that, like I can't emphasize it. It's cool. It's just cool.
We're on the launch pad. We're on the launch pad, and main engines are about to get lit.
We're there. We just
hold on.
Once the video camera equipment comes into place, being Appalachian will be launched, and we're going to start rocking and rolling with this, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And I want it to be fun for everybody. I want all my friends, all the subscribers, all the people in this town to come out and enjoy it with us and have that kind of fun, And I'm hoping we can work hand in hand, tandemly with Rocky Mount and Franklin County, and finding ways to, hey, we'll get these people to come to town. You find a way to get them at the Harvester. You find a way to get them, at an event. Let's give people reasons to come spend money here because it helps us all.
Yep. Sharing the load, sharing the wealth. Love it.
So yeah, once again, go check out D's Lug Nuts on all the platforms. They just did their 100th episode. Congrats to the Wood Brothers again. Hopefully we'll get them on the show here again in the very near future when we get the equipment up. Segueing into now the national news that's going to affect Appalachia and our region and how we should approach this. What a freaking crazy week of politics. So the DNC kicks off in Chicago, and apparently it's just a cluster as it is, whatever way you want to slice it. But, they go out there and they do their thing, and they put out these rumors that Taylor Swift or Beyonce is going to be there. So everybody shows up and packs the arena, but none of that ever happens. And they go up on stage and cover your children's ears, but they basically just jerk each other off and talk about how awesome they are. And they don't address the true problems that are going on in this country. They don't address the things that we're worried about. They're treating it as a freaking concert. And for better or worse, they probably did a decent enough job at it because they know their base is full of morons. I mean, they have Obama speaking and Hillary and Oprah. They have all these superstars, and they go out there. And
it was a Hollywood show.
It was, and that's going on through the week. And somehow, strategically speaking, one person, and not Trump, decides to start dropping information that he may drop out of the race. And all of a sudden, that just takes out all the wind out of the sails.
It was. You could feel the shockwave.
One day it comes out that there's rumors and speculation. And the next day saying they're going to be making an announcement on Friday. So every time that the Democrats at the convention had anything to give them momentum, RFK and Trump to a certain degree completely stifled that and brought all the attention back over.
Well, and you can tell there's still a shock. There's still a leftover shock from this because the Democrats don't really know how to respond to it. Now, they'll get some response coming, but the problem is they have no policy to really back anything up at this point, and really everybody is looking for that now. The cat's out of the bag in terms of avoiding interviews, and I guess it's about time for some of the interviews to happen and also the debates to happen.
To this day, she has not given one press conference yet, has she?
Well, and no policy. Yep. All that DNC show.
Well, she did come out with saying stop taxing the tips, which was a and everybody will say, oh, that's a Trump policy that he came out with months ago. No, actually, it's a Ron Paul policy from 2012 or something to that. So Ron Paul, but kudos to Trump for bringing it back out and forcing her hand. But that's the only policy position.
But we've heard nothing. I mean, no interviews, no policy decision. It was Trump bashing, and it was Hollywood putting on a dreadful sort of awards ceremony. I mean, it was repulsive.
Well, it's like the Grammys. They just go up there and pat each other on the back all day long. Meanwhile, their constituents are suffering. Not the people that and not their constituents, their supporters are suffering. Not the people they despise like us. They don't care about us, but the people they at least pretend to care about are suffering.
What it was, I can probably cover it in 2 words. And that one of them is, you need to think about it. but it was political masturbation.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly what that was. It was just a farcical show.
Well, and usually, I mean, there are always farcical shows, these conventions, but this, usually there is at least something to hold your hat on in terms of what you're going to do or what
Substance.
what you
Give me some
represent,
substance.
anything. And, you know, they've just gotten to a point where there's no demand for that. There's no press saying, hey, you know, what's your view on this? Why haven't you given an interview? What's the problem?
I give me a little bit here. I'm gonna relay word for word verbatim what RFK has said. So just pleasure me a moment, but nonetheless, these are the words of RFK. Democrats have become the party of war, censorship, corruption, big pharma, big tech, big ag, and big money, wanting to abandon democracy by cancelling the primary to conceal the cognitive decline of the sitting president. I mean, that's a fascinating statement in itself. He goes, I left the party to run as an independent. So we know this. That was stated fact. The DNC and its media organs engineered a surge of popularity for VP Harris based upon nothing, no policies, no interviews, no debates, only smoke and mirrors. I mean, where do you go from there?
That's perfect. That was one of the greatest speeches I've heard in a long time in terms of actually laying out what's really happening. And what was beautiful, or I say beautiful, it's sad at the same time, was watching in real time news agencies would go away from his speech because he was calling them out.
Yep.
When he started calling out like ABC News, they pulled away and started calling out criticisms of him in the middle of his speech. Like, oh, wait, this is the guy who said such and such so long ago. While he's giving his speech, they back out and start doing that. They start going on the defensive, which tells you he was saying something.
Oh, he was well over the target.
They did not want him repeating what he was saying on their platform.
He went on to say, how did the Democratic Party choose a candidate that has never done an interview or debate during the entire election cycle? He goes, we know the answer. They did it by weaponizing the government agencies. They did it by abandoning democracy. They did it by suing the opposition and by disenfranchising American voters. What most alarms me isn't how the Democratic Party conducts its internal affairs or runs its candidates. What alarms me is the resort to censorship and media control and the weaponization of the federal agencies. Whoa, that was a bomb drop.
And it's very similar. If you go back and look at Ron Paul's speech when he was leaving Congress, it's very similar to what he said.
Yeah.
You've got to watch these alphabet agencies, and you know they're going to have the power, and they're controlling things at this time.
I'm afraid so. So he went on further to say, many months ago, I promised the American people that I would withdraw from the race if I became a spoiler. That's quite a concept, right? And it's actually a very honest concept.
But he only dropped out in in red solid states, I think. He stayed in the race in swing states.
Yes.
To try and take away.
So he goes, in my heart, I no longer believe that I have a realistic path to electoral victory. And that's a reasonable statement in the face of his relentless, systematic censorship and media control. He goes, I am simply suspending it and not ending it. My name will remain on the ballot in most states. Here's a strategic move, and it's genius. I encourage you to vote for me. In an honest system, I believe that I would have won the election. After all the polls consistently showed me beating each of the other candidates in about 10 battleground states where my presence would be a spoiler, I'm going to remove my name. I throw my support behind Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm. Well, and so, Billy, what do you think about, I've had some friends talk about, with RFK Jr. doing this, why wouldn't Chase Oliver and the LP do the same thing?
I had the same thought coming up the road today. I was sitting there thinking, if he did it, wow, what is their thought process right now? I actually had somebody reach out to me the other day, saying that Trump was coming back through the area here in the very near future. And he said, he could probably schedule or set up something via Zoom or whatever. And I texted him back. I was like, well, he's already been to my house before, and I'm not going to do anything remote with him. I would consider bringing him back up here. I said, but I have to talk to my guys, which would be y'all too. But that's neither here nor there. I think if Chase Oliver gave a rat's ass about the Libertarian Party, he would probably do the same thing and stop wasting whatever money or resources that the LP might be using to support him. Because let's just be realistic. I've had this conversation, and I want to have it with Spike. But I think we've talked about it before, and I might have brought it up to Spike in one of his spaces. But I said in a moment like this, Spike, even if you did run this year, with RFK running as well, you would still be far and away the best candidate on the ticket. Mm-hmm. But with RFK going, you could run the best campaign the LP has ever seen and still to get less than 1%, just because RFK is running and just because it's such a highly polarized situation. So I would not want you to, for lack of better terms, blow your load on this election. Yeah. I think it would have been dumb. Even Spike, Dave Smith, whatever top libertarian you wanted to, would have been a wasted opportunity.
Yeah.
And Chase Oliver is not even in the same, never mind ballpark. I don't think he's in the same country. Like, they're playing baseball and he's playing cricket.
Yeah, but it wouldn't be for Chase Oliver. It'd be
what
the
do you
party.
Mean cricket?
Exactly.
It would be the party coming together.
Was cricket.
I'm just trying to find an analogy that works. I'm trying to find an analogy.
No, you can't use cricket as an analogy.
Well, baseball and football, soccer doesn't work.
We call it baseball and rounders, but then that would be slightly misogynistic of me to suggest that baseball is a derivative of rounders played by ladies. Oh, carry on, Billy.
I'm going to carry on. They absolutely should. They should. I mean, and maybe we bring Mike up here. I mean, I'm not opposed, Simon. I'm not opposed to bringing Mike back up here. I'm really not a fan of what he did at the convention.
No,
but I don't hate the guy. I still like the guy.
No,
I still like him as a human.
He came up
but
with
politics is cutthroat, and I'm trying to separate
and he fell for it.
Well, I don't know if he fell for it or he saw an opportunity. Maybe he was an opportunist. Or a lot of people had a lot of criticism saying, "Oh, surprise, surprise, the cop." You know what I mean? That's what he's looked at in Libertarian as a cop. But I like Mike as a person.
Oh, absolutely, very. You know what I mean? Articulate, extremely intelligent.
And if he was the nominee instead of Chase, I would be behind him.
Oh, I'd be far more behind him than Chase Oliver, in fairness. Because, Chase Oliver's stance, to me, is not really centrist libertarian. And that is what we were looking for. And sadly, it wasn't delivered.
No, not even close.
No.
Yeah, drop out now, let the LP endorse Trump, and say, look,
that's going to be a very
have a
tough
condition.
pill.
Say,
no,
hey, let's
not at all.
Defend the guard. We want to defend the guard to be passed, and that's our caveat. You give us defend the guard, you got the LP.
Give us defend the guard, and give us somebody a libertarian in your cabinet. Justin Amash just lost his primary.
Let's put some folks in the cabinet.
Yeah.
Or at least with czar status, which appears to be an issue that's been overlooked by the Democratic Party, and Biden appointing Harris as the border czar, and didn't even go there. Oh, but I went to Europe. Are you serious with that comment? I mean, this is getting memed out of oblivion, and we will meme her to destruction.
But isn't it crazy how Biden is still a president right now, and it doesn't feel like that?
And he's on the beach fast asleep.
Right. Well, and
in Delaware or whatever tax haven he chooses.
He's not doing anything, and that's probably great because what
Lord.
would it be? Yeah, but he's the president. It's just crazy.
It blows my mind. I still want to come back and quote some of the stuff that RFK has said.
Give me 1 second though, real quick. We'll circle back around to that in just.
Oh
1
God!
second. I just wanted to say
that was a Jen Psaki, wasn't it? Not. I'm going to punch you in the throat.
I just want to say at this moment, I call on the Libertarian Party candidate Chase Oliver, drop out, stop wasting your resources, and endorse this, because this is historic. This is a huge moment, and we'll talk in the after show a bit about my concerns with how historic it is, and my concerns about perhaps the legitimacy of it, and we'll talk about that in the after show. But surface level speaking, it's historic. The LP is not going to do anything this year. They wouldn't do anything with Spike or Dave, respectfully speaking, like we said, just because of how polarized it is, and with RFK taking that thunder as a third party this year. So yes, Chase Oliver, Mike Tremont, drop out, and let's save those resources, and let's use that leverage. Obviously, we have come far enough to where the LP has enough leverage to where Trump showed up at the convention and he's made some concessions. So let's use that and save our money, and let's focus on getting libertarians elected in smaller.
Who brought these two together? Both Trump and RFK Jr. came to the Libertarian Convention. That's the only place that I know that they got together early on. So who basically sowed the seeds for this?
Angela McArdle, shout out to her.
Yeah, that's right. And, it's crazy how that happens. Libertarians just seem to be the quiet, silent guys in the back, just kind of making stuff happen without the fanfare, which seems to be sort of norm.
And libertarians take a lot of grief. It's like, look, I'm a conservative libertarian. Basically, that means socially, you know what? I've pulled back quite a bit on my social acceptance of things, because I'm allowed to have my opinions on it. And I think some things are just abhorrent. And I don't care how open-minded you want to be on a social, culturally level. I still disagree with them, and I'm not going to fight for them. And we can talk about what those are later, but I'm a conservative libertarian. I want to see conservative values. I want to see less government, small government, and
fiscally responsible government.
Fiscally responsible. Yes, social to a degree. No, if my tax dollars are still being stolen to pay for that park, I don't want a heroin addict sitting there shooting up on the park bench because, he has a right to that space as much. No, he doesn't. My kids are here, and I'm sorry, I'm paying taxes. He's obviously not. We have to start finding out ways to differentiate, but, I digress. So yeah, libertarians, if that's the way, Chase drop out, Mike drop out, Mike still come up. Maybe let's talk about that in the after show, whether we should have him on or not. But, yeah, I agree with that. I think they should do it. Why not at this point in time?
I mean, you've got the leverage. You've shown that you can have an effect on the election. Why not, grab onto what momentum that RFK Jr. has sort of created.
Keep your names on the ticket, and by all means,
and follow right into it. Support it and see what happens. These opportunities don't really come up this often.
No,
he's already said he'd have libertarians in this cabinet.
Yeah, and that's all we need to hear, quite frankly. So with libertarians remaining on the ballot isn't a bad thing, but I think supporting the libertarian upper tier, I think they've let the Libertarian Party down, and that's all there is to it.
Well, surface level they have, but even Angela and the LP Twitter or whatever X has made statements saying that they support Trump and RFK's ticket and their abilities to move forward, but they also support the Chase campaign for whatever reason. You know what I mean? They're still playing both sides of it, but
they're contractually obligated to do.
They are, but they see the writing on the wall.
Yeah, they've got to do what they've got to do.
Well, after this election, maybe we'll start moving forward with some things. But circle back around to you. You said you wanted to,
Well, I just wanted to let people know out there the RFK narrative, because it's not being presented in the corporate, mainstream media. So he went on to say, in a series of long, intense discussions, I was surprised to discover that we are aligned on many key issues. In those meetings, he suggested that we join forces as a unity party. That's what compromise is about, right? This is what politics is about. Compromise. It's not about absolute division and basically putting the path putting the country on a civil war footing, which is what's going on right now. So we're talking about compromise. RFK realizes and recognizes that, as does Trump. He goes, we talked about Abraham Lincoln's team of rivals. That arrangement would allow us to disagree publicly and privately and fiercely if the need on issues over which we differ, while working together on the existential issues upon which we are in concordance. Interesting. There's compromise here. I like it. This is where we should be at. I was a ferocious critic of many of the policies during his first administration, and there are still issues and approaches upon which we continue to have very serious differences. Great. Have differences, have discussion, have compromise.
That's right.
This is how political discourse can find middle ground, but we are aligned with each other on other key issues. Okay, so there's an understanding. Mm-hmm. Like ending forever wars, ending the childhood disease epidemics, securing the border, protecting freedom of speech, unraveling the corporate capture of our regulatory agencies, getting the US intelligence agencies out of the business of propagandizing, which is weaponizing. That was my statement. And censoring and surveying Americans and interfering with our elections. That was if anyone didn't grasp how serious that statement is, you're following the wrong press. Mm-hmm. You are not a critical thinker. And at this point, you should be very, very disturbed that our ABC agencies are politically weaponized against we, the people. That's a monster.
And I would encourage people to go back and watch that original speech, watch him deliver it, because it just hearing it recited, it makes the hair stand up on your hair.
It should do. It should do. I mean, and unfortunately for RFK, he's a dreadful vocal experience to listen to. It's like Alex Jones. He vocally is just not a pleasant experience to the listener.
It's true.
But the message is worth listening to. Mm-hmm. He goes, suspending my candidacy is a heart-rending decision for me. I get it. He had to admit defeat. Mm-hmm. But from outside sources, he goes, but I'm convinced that it's the best hope or ending the Ukraine war and ending the chronic disease epidemic that is eroding our nation's vitality from the inside, and for finally protecting free speech. That's a big protecting free speech. I feel a moral obligation to use this opportunity to save millions of American children above all things. Well, it's about time someone came out and said that.
That's right.
It really is. Following my first discussion with President Trump, I tried unsuccessfully to open similar discussions with Vice President Harris. Vice President Harris declined to meet or even speak to me. Democrats want nothing to do with you. Republicans will at least give you a seat at the table.
How can you say no to that?
Yeah. I mean, how far down the path of self-destruction have we gone? Mm-hmm. And I think RFK realizes it and has put his reputation at stake, maybe most certainly against his family's wishes. But there's a man who has stood by his word. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't necessarily agree with a lot of things RFK stands for. I mean, I think fundamentally he's a socialist.
Agreed.
That's right.
And,
bad on guns for the longest time.
And still is.
We have to find middle ground. Now, if this is the middle ground that we find, I think it's actually fairly acceptable.
Sure it is.
I think there's a path forward. And we've got the DNC quite frankly, is going to self-implode. It has to self-destruct, because how they put Harris in the position that she is currently in, quite frankly, astounds me. That not one Democrat has come forward and said the process is fraudulent and against our convention rules. It blows my mind. So they're all in on it.
That's right.
They're all in on it. This is a fix.
None of them want to be cast out from their
Right.
tribe.
Well, I don't know if anybody knows who Jimmy Dore is, especially some of our listeners. I'm sure Chip knows who he is, but he's a comedian, California, very Bernie-ish leaning when it comes to his policies and everything like that. So I don't agree with him politically at all. But the thing I can respect about Jimmy Dore is he calls balls and strikes.
Mm-hmm.
He says how it
He's
is.
honest.
He is honest. He will tell you, I bought into the COVID scare. I bought into all this kind of stuff. I bought into the snake bite, and then I went and got it, and then I got sick, and then I started seeing everybody else while they're saying that, no, you can get it and you'll be okay, blah, blah, blah. And then people are getting it. I mean, it really
Fauci's had 6 shots.
Allegedly.
Right. Allegedly.
I don't believe for 1 second he put any of that in his body.
Oh no, he would be a fool too if he's well aware of exactly what was in those shots. But the fact now that he's been reported allegedly to have West Nile virus, along with another case of COVID, what on earth is going on here with the mainstream media narrative? Please, where can we read through the bullshit?
That's the problem. There's just so few places you can anymore, and the independent sources are getting drowned out, or independently fact checked so that they can't be involved, or threatened in every other country, threatened to be put in jail or actually arrested.
Yeah, look what's going on in the UK. Look what's happening with France and the guy from Telegram. If this isn't a direct attack on our free speech in a foreign country, oh, what a surprise there. Where on earth? Where are we going with this?
And that seems to be the entire EU. I mean, that seems
Absolutely.
to be every bit of it.
I am beyond. It's unfathomable to conceive that they've arrested a guy for free speech in Paris, or just south of Paris, knowing full well that we know they're attacking freedom of speech.
Well, interesting tidbit about that. He fled from Russia thinking that Putin would actually lock him up. And who ended up doing it? It was a Western ally.
The bloody French.
Yeah.
Bastards.
I mean, but let's, and back to Jimmy Dore, I'm not a big, but I can respect him, and I like listening to him because I like hearing their perspectives on things. And Jimmy Dore, I watched a video he did last night, about 30 minutes or so, and it was very eye-opening because he made some phenomenal points. He said, look how historic this is. He said, this is a Kennedy. He said, this is Democrat royalty right here. This is somebody from Camelot, somebody that, that for 50 or 60 years, a family that the entire country has looked up, and he is coming on stage and he is telling you that the Democratic Party that we know is no longer. He said they are the party of war. I've been
saying this for years.
They are the party of war. They are the party of big business. They are the party of corporations and Wall Street. He said, look at this. He said, this is a Republican rally, and people are in there cheering for an environmentalist. They are cheering for somebody talking about coming in and fixing the health care, for somebody holding Big Pharma responsible. These are Republicans cheering for this. Imagine how historic that is.
The very fact that RFK has come out and thrown his hand in with Trump absolutely stalled the DNC propaganda machine, which was Hollywood. It was Hollywood backed, and it was despicable. I didn't get any policy out of that whole conference. I got nothing other than Trump bashing. And that is despicable from the start. If that is how you're going to put your campaign to the American citizen, you better watch out, because it's hollow. There is nothing of substance there. And I've said this a couple of times across social media. If you consider your conscience prevents you from voting for Trump, how does your intelligence allow you to vote for Harris? That's a fucking T-shirt right there.
It's true.
And here in the very near future, we're going to start producing a lot more T-shirts and getting our swag shop up and running.
no.
We're going to have them. Big way to help that take place is by going to patreon.com/GetOnTap, and just for $10 a day, you can always give more. A quarter a day would be great. $1 a day would be phenomenal. But for you people out there who can do it, please help us out. We're going to have a lot of fun in the near future. We want to bring as many out on board as possible. So please go subscribe at patreon.com/GetOnTap. And that's a good way to end the show here. Can we just keep around for 20 more minutes real quick? Let's take a smoke break and just do an after show real quick.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Billy. Carry on as you want.
We are going to go ahead, and for our Patreon subscribers, you can listen to the after show here. We're going to we're going to go a little bit deeper into this RFK thing and about how historic it is, and talk about the position we would like for him to get into. And we'll discuss a few other things. Things that are more raw in nature and more adult friendly. So for subscribers, we curse a little bit more. We get a bit more passionate. You get a little bit more about how it is. So
in Appalachian style,
absolutely. And it's before we get off here, it's been such a good week. I think we hit like 14,000 followers on Facebook. It's wild because I'll put out this very heartfelt, genuine message on Facebook or post or something with a lot of substance, and I might get anywhere between a couple hundred and 200 likes. And then I just post a 40-year-old picture of Dale Earnhardt standing on the side of the road in the members jacket, and I'm up to 10,000 likes. But it's, I'll take whoever we can get and how we can get it.
Wild.
Yeah. So we just hit 14,000 this week on Face God. We hit 11,000 today, this weekend on Instagram, and we're at 17.5 on X. So please go follow us at the Appalachian Podcast on Facebook and Instagram, and at Get On Tap on X, which is the place that I'll communicate with you more than not. We're starting to get back into Facebook, but look, they've screwed us over. They've screwed Chip over. They nuked his page with almost 1 million followers.
but it is the mainstream media outlet that local folks.
Well, that's it. My local people on Facebook, my meme people are on Instagram, and my people I have the conversation with regionally, and that covers all of Appalachia, is on X.
Yeah.
So you're getting different conversations and different things on each platform. So go follow us in any of those. As well as being a member at patreon.com/GetOnTap to help us continue to do all these things. So yeah, we're having a lot of fun on social media. We're growing significantly over there. Chip's been a massive help, him and Matt, sharing our stuff from time to time. And also go follow our Being Appalachian page on X. We're going to open up the Instagram and Facebook here in the next couple of weeks. I'm going to move over our Appalachian Flavored Liberty page, which is already close to 1,000 followers. And I've actually added these two knuckle draggers as admins on the Facebook page here this week. They have yet to make a post to help me out, but we're going to start getting our Facebook page more engaged.
How can we compete with Dale Earnhardt?
We'll let that one sit right.
But we'll be around everybody. So thank everybody for your support. Thank you for this run we've had the past 3 years. Sitting here and doing this show tonight, I'm so impressed about how far we've come. I just remember where we were at a year ago, and I remember where I was at 2 or 3 years ago. And I've come a long ways with my rhetoric and with my ability to have a conversation and not say because 700 times or you know what I mean? It's I'm sitting here listening to myself and y'all, and proud of y'all and proud of us and how far we've come to make this thing a reality, and how good of a show just this is. You know what I mean? Like, I love the guests, and I promise you, people who've stuck around and listened, it's been a crazy summer, and we've kind of scaled back on the guests, but we're about to kick it into high gear when the video equipment comes in. And I'm telling you,
brace yourselves.
The guests we have coming up here is some phenomenally culturally relevant people. So our Patreon subscribers at patreon.com/GetOnTap, we'll have an opportunity to come up here and sit in for some of these shows and hang out with these people and network. So thank y'all for being along for the ride.
Here it comes.
Thank you for sticking around. Once again, all of our social media is at Get On Tap and the Appalachian Podcast. Chip.
at being libertarian, at being libertarian on X, at being a libertarian on Instagram, and then being libertarian media on Facebook. But hang around for the after show. We got a lot of good stuff to get into there.
But also even on Facebook and Instagram, it's like being libertarian media, being libertarian 2.0, vintage political memes, U.S. space farce, being libertarian UK, being libertarian Asia, being libertarian South America. I mean, I ended up following I consider Chip a good friend at this point in time in my life. And just this week, I had to follow five different pages I didn't even know existed because I'm like, wait, Asia? So I started, look.
I'll get you on the UK one as well. I'm just, oh my God.
He's having fun on that one.
Oh, I know he is. I know he is.
Great.
You should probably, honestly, at some point in time now, we need to have a class in etiquette with him and Amos, and we need to have a class on how to teach him how to use X as well. But you should probably add him as a freaking contributor on the UK page. You really should.
I'm going to have to.
So yeah, thank everybody that's been a part of that. Once again, Big Lick Roofing, go follow them. Big supporters of the show. Rife Technology, Matthew Rife, can't wait to get him back up here in a couple of weeks. Being Libertarian, obviously, Rocky Mountain Smokehouse, Rocky Mountain Burger Company, Anastasia's, Speakeasy, Little Shabby's, the Morris Hotel. It's coming on here in the very near future, Simon. I can't wait till we get Philip back in here. The Morris Hotel is going to be a keystone corner point for the Appalachian Podcast. We bring guests in here, not just guests. Look, guests, bring your crew, bring your families, stay at the Early Inn, stay at the Morris Hotel for a couple of days, get the experience. You are the power. Once again, Spike Cohen, thank you so much. Patreon.com/GetOnTap. You can find us there. For everybody else, go to Patreon.com/GetOnTap for the after show. We're going to stick around. We want to talk about the best place that I think RFK Jr. should be put in, and where he should also put in our libertarians. And we'll get a little spicy with it about a couple of local things. So thank y'all so much. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Crowd. I drank too much and I laughed too loud. That's just me. That's how I'll always be. I roll my own every now and then. I love a good buzz with a few close friends. That's just me. That's how I'll always be. It won't hear me back. For the few country boys like me that we still have. I believe hard work won't go unseen. I'm a big fan of chasing your dreams. That's just me. That's how I'll always be. The road to the top, it ain't no easy climb. But if you love what you do, I believe you'll be fine. That's just me. That's how I'll always be. You won't hear me beg. I'm a bit too proud. I work my ass off for everything that I have. So let's take a drink. Maybe raise your glass. This is for the few country boys like me that we still have. I believe that God and Mama are your two best friends, but most of the time I don't listen to them. That's just me. That's how I'll always be. And I wait at the gates that's when it's my turn to fly. But I'll still raise hell until the day that I die. That's just me. That's how I'll always be. It won't hit me big. I'm a bit too proud. I work my ass off for everything that I have. So let's take a drink. Baby, raise your glass. This is for the few country boys like me that we still have.